watch TV but not licensed to run a private army, and that's something we're kind of really campaigning against. But it's not just the army that's being privatised in Afghanistan, it's also the economy. So again, like the model of neoliberalism we saw imposed on Iraq, we see exactly the same model being imposed on Afghanistan, where in 2005 a law was passed by the Afghan government under advice from the World Bank, which has now led to 50 previously state-owned assets and kind of companies being privatised. So this kind of real draw, this kind of road towards kind of privatisation, towards the expansion of kind of the economic policies that we've seen wrought havoc all over the world, are now being driven through in Afghanistan. And this is ultimately something that for generations to come is going to ruin the chances of Afghanis of developing, once the troops finally leave. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about actually, just because I mentioned the drones, and I do think this is important when we're linking together all the issues to do with militarism. In The Guardian today, they reported in these kind of WikiLeaks that kind of about the US use of unarmed vehicles. But the UK also uses them. And I think it's really important to look at where the UK is buying the equipment from that's enabling it to fight these wars in Afghanistan. Now this drone technology, this kind of new form of robotics, is an Israeli technology primarily. And the UK buys components and makes them in its Litchfield kind of plant for Hermes and Heron drones. And this is equipment that the Israelis have, tested in the laboratory of the occupied territories. And we really need to be linking through those issues about where the UK, about the UK government's arms trade, but also making sure that whilst we're campaigning for the troops to leave Afghanistan, we're linking up these issues and also campaigning for a two-way arms embargo between the UK and Israel, because, we should not be, civilian cost is something that we don't get to hear a lot about in the UK. And I think that's because we can all be quite honest about how our leaders kind of see the situation. They don't place the same value on Afghani lives, just as they didn't place the same value on Iraqi lives. And therefore for us it's been quite difficult trying to even find out what the figures are. From the little reports that we do manage to piece together, and I think today's leaks are fantastic, and I'm sure when somebody finally goes through that we'll get a clearer picture. But from the civilian figures we have been able to count, we've seen that last year, 2009, has been the bloodiest year for civilian casualties. And as this war is escalating, it's not just British troops that have been in the impact of that, it's ordinary Afghanis. So yeah, I think it's quite clear that in terms of development terms, as an anti-poverty organisation, we can be quite clear that this isn't a war for development, and we should be challenging every time a British government minister tries to say that. Of course, the difficulty is I don't think they quite know themselves why they're going to war, so every day there's a different reason that they give. But certainly what we can do here, I think, is, we can escalate our tactics. On the way here, I was thinking, it's been a while actually since I've kind of spoken at a Stop the War meeting, and I was kind of thinking back to some of the mobilising we were doing in 2002. And I remember really clearly the strategy kind of being around kind of October in the run-up to the 2003 incredible kind of demonstration. We all took it personally upon ourselves to personally bring an extra 5 people from the September 2005 demo to the February one. So I think if there's one thing you can go away with today, is that you all individually, personally vow to bring 5 people, and it doesn't count if they're in this room, that you bring to the next mobilisation, which I think is going to be in November. I also think, and I very much hope everybody in this room has done this, we have a new parliament. Some of us might question how much the parliamentary system can achieve. However, MPs are there. They have to respond to you when you write to them. Every single person in this room should be writing to them. You should have already written to them saying, I've just elected you. I think the war is wrong. I think we should withdraw. I want you to raise this with the Foreign Secretary. So I want each of you to go away from this meeting doing at least those 2 things. Because, it's very easy as political activists to, come to a meeting, having read something in The Guardian, listen to a bunch of speakers on Afghanistan, and then go away feeling really good about yourself that you've, somehow done something really good by doing your political action of the week by going to a meeting. Well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for me, and I'm sure it's not good enough for anyone on this platform. We've got a responsibility. You are the people that can make that happen. You know, throughout history we know that unjust wars happen, but they also end. And the only way they end is by people taking political action. So I want to see you guys again, but I want to see you on the streets. I think we need to learn the lessons from our actions around the anti-war movement around Iraq, which means that big demonstrations are good, but also, you know, big demonstrations are easy to deal with. You know, the direct actions, the teachings, the occupations, the local meetings, we need to reinvigorate that. Because I tell you what, ordinary Afghanis need us to reinvigorate that for them. Because I don't want to come back here in another year and report to you that 2010 was a year when even more Afghanis died and the war escalated. So thanks very much. I look forward to seeing you all very soon on the streets.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Yasmin.